Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, Dr. Deshawn and my fellow classmates. My name is Angela Stafford, and this evening I will be presenting my paper about human sexual development. What is human sexual development? It is the process of biological changes of aging, maturing, and knowledge learned, behaviors observed, and beliefs taught based on a certain factor throughout the progression of social defined stages of childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and later in life. Growing up, sex talk was taboo. But as the years have gone by, I see that more parents are becoming more comfortable with having the talk, having the necessary sex talk with their kids. It's something that will happen no matter how soon we start talking to our children. It is stages in life that everybody has to go through. I remember having health in high school, and I think it was my 9th grade year, and I remember learning about a lot of things sex that my mom didn't share with me growing up. And I was a teen mom at 15, and as I was pushing out my baby, I was like, why you didn't tell me it was gonna hurt like this? And she just was like frozen. But it's more to just more to sex talk than just actually having sex. From infancy, how we perceive the world, and how we develop in our thinking, what we watching our parents do, interacting with each other, and family and friends are different people in our lives with different titles. So this paper was very interesting to formulate because growing up with me, it was more like we just didn't talk about that type of situation. My mom was a minister. Some of the deciding factors are a person's age, what they observe between family and friends, and what they are taught, religious, cultural beliefs about sexuality and physical boundaries. The process starts at birth and ends at death. Sexual development manifests in different ways as the person ages. In toddlers, they might explore the bodies of their mom by touching on her breast, try to go in the bathroom to use it or to watch their parents use it, try to be naked even when no one else is, and even start to explore their own bodies by touching themselves in their private area in public. I have been a teacher of all ages from 6 weeks all the way up to 12 years old. I've done after school care, summer camp. I worked in all kind of child development centers and schools as teacher aides, and I have seen all of these stages in children, how they manifest it. From babies, I breastfed my children, all 5 of them, and it was a common thing for them. Even after I stop nursing them, when I hold them, it's something about they just want to put their hands in my shirt. And they knew I had stopped nursing them. And it wasn't like they were trying to get in there, but it was just, I guess it was a common thing that they did that led to me nursing them. I knew that was one way they was hungry when they reached. But it was something that they did. And then, with my sisters, my children would do the same thing to them, and knowing that they had never experienced breastfeeding with them, but I think it was just a force of habit. It was like a comfort zone for them. In toddlers, let's see, In children a little older, 4 to 6 year old, they might express their sexual development through recognizing the difference in other children's bodies, like a girl or boy. As they mature and gain the knowledge of what makes them different, they tend to play games like doctor or house while mimicking what they have witnessed adults do. They might even explore further by holding hands and kissing while playing house. I have seen that a lot, and it's very interesting to even see their parenting styles that they witness their parents do. Sometimes, even if it's spanking children, you can see them. They'll get a little Barbie doll, and they'll say, tap the baby bottom, and they'll say, don't do that no more, or whatever they think the baby's done. Or you see them snuggle the baby and kiss the baby on the forehead, and they'll pretend to read a book to them while they rocking them to sleep, and they'll sing songs to them. And some of the songs, some of them sing nursery rhymes, some of them sing original songs that they had to have learned. Their mom may have made up a song, or a daddy or grandpa or something. It's interesting to see that, how they nurture their dolls, or how they greet, if it's a husband and a wife, how they greet each other when they come home. Some of them say, honey, I'm home. And then they may bend down, the boy may kiss her on her forehead, or you'll see the girl, she'll have on her arm up with her purse hanging, and he'll ask for something and she'll reach out her hand to him like she being dainty. It is fun to watch them. By the time they're in elementary school, ages 7 to 12 year olds, they begin to learn what is considered acceptable, good or bad, or naughty. During this process, the children would often try to test the water by saying something they know is bad, just to see what would happen. I think we all have gone through that terrible 2 stage, terrible 3, 4, 5, 6, and on up stage, where they test you just to see how far they can get away with stuff, or throwing tantrums or whatever. They might begin to ask questions such as, where do babies come from? Or why do girls' bodies look different than mine? At that stage of development, they also begin to have an attraction to the opposite sex. And that shows in when they're playing house, or if they're playing doctor, or teacher, or dance, or even swim. There is no pool out there, but sometimes in their play pretend, whatever is in the box for dramatic play area, they try to be farmers, or or whatever, a chef, and how they cook and they talk to each other, interact, and very polite, and a lot of their acquaintances. Although exploring their bodies is common, some behaviors are considered high risk as safety problems. Some examples of what to watch out would be a 3-year-old trying to kiss someone's genitals, a sexual act that involves threats, force, or aggression, and a kind of act that provokes strong emotional reactions from the child, such as anger or anxiety. A person's relationship with family members, intimate partners, and friends help shape their gender and sexual identities, sexual attitudes, and sexual behaviors. Now, being a teacher for so many years, I was a mandated reporter, and thank God none of my students in my classes, I had to report any type of anything out. But I did work at centers where the director had to call DHR. Was just some things about some toddlers that was like 1, 2, and 3 on different occasions would have like blood in their diaper. They would some of the toddlers was doing some things to another toddler. And I think it was another one. It was something. It was like different marks on that baby, I believe. Maybe a 1 or 2 year old. And it was so crazy because, you know, I have a lot of I listen to a lot of parents that try to force gender roles on children before they even know what it is. I've had some dads that come in and their son is playing with a Barbie doll, and they could be playing house over there. Because of course, if the daddy is in the house, see the children see the daddy give baths or get dressed or, you know, do domestic things, and so they mimic that. But I've had some dads that come in and say, my son can't play, you know, with dolls. No, you need to get over there and play with blocks, or, you know, maybe it's some trucks or some cars, but not that. And I was like, you know, Dad, I said, you do domestic stuff. Like, you help him get a bath, you help him put him to bed, you read books to him, and it's not going to sway him. He doesn't know what you're trying to say, that this could coerce him into something. He doesn't know anything about that. And so that is very interesting to see when, you know, certain things like that, what to look out for, some things that the children could be doing. I think one of them, it was a little boy, I think he was 3, and he had a doll. He was laying on top of the doll and he was hunching the doll. I think that was one of the situations that we was watching out for, and I think that teacher may have mentioned it to the parents just to kind of see what was going on. And I think one of them, she was letting somebody babysit him, and he was getting exposed to some things that he shouldn't have been getting exposed to. And that just makes your heart, you know, it makes you hurt and just know, you know, it was a single mom. She was having to go to work, and somebody volunteered to babysit, and that's what they were doing, exposing the kids to that. Diversity contributes to the vitality of society. Human sexual development is an ever-evolving process. When the changes slow up and stop later in life, the desire to be intimate still remains until death. Cultural scripting gives society a general pattern in which sexual behavior is to be. It typically makes a point of spotlighting heterosexual intercourse and discourages masturbation. Cultural scripting expresses moral with normal and immoral with abnormal behaviors. Interpersonal concepts spotlights the internal and physiological states that lead to accompany or identify sexual arousal, such as pounding heart, erection, or vaginal lubrication. Interpersonal concepts spotlights the shared conventions and signals that enable two people to engage in sexual behavior, such as body language, words, or erotic touching. As humans develop through puberty and into adolescence, there are more changes that occur that work together to shape who they will become. The first 3 phases they enter are into independence, identity, and self-esteem. Independence is when they learn to work out problems on their own without looking to their parents to fix everything for them. Now that right there, that can vary between, you know, all the stages. I remember when my children were maybe 2 and 3, and they began to be fiercely independent. They didn't want me feeding them no more. They wanted to get themselves dressed, and even in the tub, every night because I soap up the tub, the towel real soapy, and they would reach for it, and it was, you know, it was cute to see a little 2-year-old towel heavy as them and trying to, you know, bathe themselves as they would see me do them. And later on in life, you know, throughout the different stages of life, as they get older, even when they coming from teenage to college life, a lot of kids love when they go off to college and live on a dorm because it's their first time being away from their parents. And so, some of those things, some of them struggle. I remember when my oldest daughter went to college, at first she was like, Mom, there's so many children don't know how to wash their clothes. They keep breaking the washer and the dryer, because that may be their first form of, being independent. Now mom's not there to do your laundry, so now you gotta work, you gotta figure out how to do it on your own. Let's see, independence there. This gives them the prelude to fantasize about their future away from their parents. Identity and self-esteem are both crucial in their development stages because it controls how they view themselves. Their personalities are forming, their bodies are changing, their voices are changing into puberty and older, and they are being more aware of what they like about themselves and how they will want other people to think about them during that phase also. I remember my 13-year-old, all of a sudden, like, she never wanted, took an interest into putting on makeup. Then all of a sudden, it's like when she hit 13, she just was like, she want to put on mascara. Or she was like, she making sure that she have on her chapstick, and my the one that's 15, just making sure I always, even when they were younger, the girls, I always made sure that every day they had their earrings on, and when they came home, they took their jewelry off. And I remember the times when I could stop having to say, before we leave to go to church or something, you got your earrings in your ear, because they already have it. They started to come and say, hey, I got my earrings in my ear. You didn't have to tell me. Or I didn't have to say, make sure that you lotion up or put Vaseline on your feet in the summertime. You don't want to ash your feet or ash your ankles. And they would come to me and be like, look, I did this on my own, without you having to ask me or remind me. After those phases comes the changes in peer relationships, male and female relationships, and family relationships. At first, children find friends that are similar to them in race, gender, social class, and ethnic backgrounds. However, as they get older, they seek to find friends outside of their gender. Becoming attracted to the opposite sex during this time may lead to some impulsive sexual behaviors, experimental interactions, and mutual exploring, and eventually intercourse. In a study conducted by Bams, Overbeck, Dubas, and Van Aken, investigated a group of adolescents to see the correlation between personalities and the development of sexual behavior. 3 types of personalities were tested during this study. The 3 types were resilient, under-controllers, and over-controllers. The first hypothesis was that under-controlling adolescents would engage in more advanced, casual, and risky sexual behavior compared to the resilient and over-controlling peers. The 3 types of personalities that were evaluated on what is called the Big 5 personality traits that are referenced as a framework for personality psychology. The Big 5 personality traits are agreeableness, consciousness, openness to experience, extroversion, and emotional stability. Those who have agreeableness traits are said to be prosocial. Those with consciousness traits are said to be goal-directed with impulsive control. Those with openness to experience traits are said to have complexity of an individual mental and experiential life. Those with extroversion traits are said to have an outgoing and interpersonal nature. Lastly, the person with emotional stability traits are said to be emotional stability refers to the steadiness of a person's mood in contrast to a broad range of negative effects, including sadness, irritability, and anxiety. When paired together under controlling, adolescents are characterized by relatively low level of agreeableness, consciousness, and openness to experiences with a high level of extroversion and an average level of emotional stability. Over controlling adolescents show a relatively high level of agreeableness and consciousness with a low level of emotional stability, openness to experience, and extroversion. Resilient adolescents have a relatively high score on all Big Five dimensions, allowing them to be flexible to adapt to the environment demands. The adolescents were then tested on three concepts of sexual behavior: general sexual behavior, casual sexual behavior, and risky sexual behavior. The general sexual behavior was classified from kissing to sexual intercourse. Casual sexual behavior was classified as sexual intercourse of any kind without any emotional connection between the two sex partners. Meaning it could be like a one night stand, somebody that they really they're not in a relationship with. It's just somebody they met, or they just hooking up without a relationship or a title. Casual sexual behavior was classified as intercourse of any kind without any emotional connection between the two sex partners. Lastly, risky sexual behavior was classified as behavior that put the teen's life in risk and could change their whole life around. Some of those behaviors are sex without condoms, online sexual behaviors, and or giving or receiving sexual favors as a reward. It can be life changing because you are having unprotected sex to the point where it's as if you can get pregnant, you can have a STD or STI of some sort, and not only that, but you can expose yourself to something online that somebody could hack and use it against you later on in life, or just meeting somebody online. You don't know if that what they're telling you who they are is really them, and that puts you at risk. The end results of the study concluded that the baseline, the under control of adolescents reported more experience in casual and risky sexual behaviors. It also concluded that over control of adolescents reported a less advanced sexual behavior with casual and risky behaviors. Lastly, the resilient adolescent reported in the middle of both the controller and under controller adolescent, landing them with not as much as under controller and not as less as the controlling peers. The World Health Organization, WHO, has defined sexual health as the integration and coordination between mind, emotions, and body that drives the social and relational aspects of humans towards personality development and leads to formation of communication and love. In a study with testing women personality traits up against their sexual self-esteem, found that how a woman views herself mentally has a great impact on how she perceives herself sexually. This study showed a prediction as to how many women will have marital issues that are sexual due to the risk factors that shows up in premarital counseling. The study found that women who had a high sexual self-esteem were able to preserve and enjoy being married and have enjoyable sex life with their parents. Their spouses. Women's sexual self-esteem is one of the most important factors that affect a woman's sexual satisfaction and their sexual anxiety. May define sexual self-esteem as the self-value that the individual consider for themselves as a sexual person. Sexual self-esteem plays a pivotal role in the individual's ability to preserve close relationship with their spouse and enjoy having sex with them. A person's sexual self-esteem isn't something that is detached from his or her daily life. It is intertwined in every aspect of life and how one views his or herself, emotionally, physically, and mentally. And I find that to be true because I've talked to some women that are not, they have low self-esteem on everything outside of sex, whether it's their body type, or they say, you know, when they're intimate with their husband or boyfriend, they rather turn off the lights because they just feel they feel like inadequate or not sexy enough or not pretty enough to even have sex with them. You know, some of them feel very uncomfortable with dressing up in lingerie, even for their husband, or, you know, playing role plays, being adventurous when they have low self-esteem. And then when you pair that with their sexual self-esteem, when they don't feel inadequate to, as in beauty form, they definitely don't think that they can perform sexual acts with their spouses, which leads to trouble because they genuinely don't want to have sex. Especially, I've heard some of them say, you know, after they had the baby, they've gotten so big and they just don't feel pretty. And so then that's when the trouble comes, because then they don't want to have sex with their husbands. And a lot of them that talk to their husbands believe that every inch of their body is beautiful, but because they do have that low self-esteem, then their sexual self-esteem takes a hit too. Women with higher sexual self-esteem experience more sexual activities and were open to more exploring with their partners. Women with lower sexual self-esteem had a lot of concerns that made her uncomfortable with exploring sexual behaviors and often questioned her sexual ability, their personal rights inside of their personal sexual relationships, and their sexual identity. In a study done in Poland with 97 heterosexual males, tested the men to see if global personality traits and stereotypical femininity and masculinity levels contrast with sexual behaviors and attitudes. The facilitators used the Big Five personality traits to measure the questionnaire. They were looking for personality traits that affect sexual functioning. When the men were paired using the Big Five traits, the results were those with neuroticism traits, which are associated with anger, anxiety, emotional instability, and depression, experience lower sexual satisfaction, negative self-esteem, and negative thoughts about their sexuality. Those with the traits of extroversion that are associated with energetic, sociable, outgoing, and optimistic experienced a greater desire for the frequency of sexual intercourse, diversity, masculinity levels, and little erection problems. The men with openness to experience traits were that are associated with imaginative, curious, original, and creative experience, positive partnership attitudes, and masculinity levels. The men with consciousness traits are associated with self-discipline, achievement, driving, cautious, and principled experience, starting to be sexual active later in life than the other men. Had more frequent and diverse sexual behaviors, little to no interest in masturbation, and overall satisfaction with their body and femininity level. The men with the traits of agreeableness, which is associated with generous, honest, kindness, and integrity, experience more frequent sexual encounters, but low numbers of sexual partners in the past, less amount of masturbation, but overall satisfaction with body. The ultimate conclusion was that the more the men were confident in their masculinity, the higher the overall satisfaction of their body and ability to be sexual with their partners. The lower the masculinity and satisfaction of themselves, the lower the sexual encounters, which led to more masturbation. Within the last few years, a movement has begun with women being more vocal about some of the injustices they have faced at the hands of men in power over them. This was called the Me Too movement. Because of the increased publicity of women expressing how they have been uncomfortably forced into moments with those men, male doctors are more cautious than ever when seeing their patients in certain scenarios without a female nurse present. This movement has empowered women to stand up for their rights to be safe in all places against any sexual predators at work, home, school, doctor, office, gym, or any other places that they are present. I feel that the dynamics of masculinity and femininity are becoming more fluid among both genders. I don't feel it's all bad. Seeing a man crying, showing his emotion, doesn't make him less of a man. Seeing a man helping out around the house or with the kids doesn't make him weak of any sort. Likewise, for a female to want to play football or work on fixing cars doesn't make her less feminine as a woman. Also, seeing a woman cutting grass, driving big 18-wheeler trucks, or working in a plant factory doesn't diminish her in any way as a woman. I would say the more contemporary sexual scripts are most relevant today. Unlike in the past generations where a lot of women viewed sex as being like a chore that she had to please her man, it didn't matter if she was pleased. In today's society, everything is mutual. Women are allowed and encouraged to explore their bodies and sexuality. As a result of them knowing what makes their body feel good sexually, they are encouraged to guide their man in telling him what she likes and how she likes it done. Women are also encouraged to initiate sex. Nowadays, both men and women are allowed to explore their sexuality and are more open and willing to explore their fantasies with each other. I feel as Christians, as long as the exploring sexuality is in the confines of their marriage, then any and everything is acceptable. As long as the couple don't break their vows to each other by bringing in someone else, then nothing should be off limits as long as, each of them is comfortable. A huge thing that I've learned about later in life is that our bodies don't belong to ourselves when we get married. The Bible mentions only staying away to pray. Women tend to feel emotionally connected when having sex, and sometimes when they aren't feeling that closeness with their husband, they don't want to have sex. That can become problematic because it could lead to the man stepping out of the marriage. There's no excuse that is acceptable for cheating. That's why I feel premarital counseling is so vital to make sure everyone is on one accord. Husband needs to know that they have a duty and obligation to meet her emotional needs as well as he expects her to meet his physical needs. I have enjoyed presenting today and I look forward to your feedback. Have a good evening.